Hey there, Stampers. Happy Friday. Welcome to this week's live. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada, and I am excited to be here to share with you some projects created using the beautiful bouquet suite from the January to April 2025 Stampin' Up! Mini Catalog. So you can see here, there are some beautiful samples, and then here we've got the products, but I'm going to share the actual products with you. These can be found on pages 38 and 39 of the January to April mini catalog. So we've got this beautiful stamp set with some great greetings in it. Time to celebrate, in case you need me, I'm here. Hello, so thankful, happy birthday, and for you. And then there's some great butterfly images, some fabulous dies, so a couple label shapes, and then some dies that coordinate with the stamp. So there's a die for this one, and this one. Then some butterfly bodies, some detailed butterflies. This fun die, which I'm going to show you how it works today. Then there are these itty bitty bouquet mix sequins, which make for great shaker cards. And we've got the beautiful bouquet DSP. So these are the patterns that are in the DSP. So it's got kind of like a bouquet pattern, watercolor pattern. So bouquet on one side. Actually, this one, we'll flip this one over. Bouquet pattern on one side. And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly or not, but so one side is like that, and then the other side is almost like a watercolor slash splatter type look. So this DSP is great for lots of different things. I love that it's got more of a subtle pattern and not a lot of pattern, so you can stamp on it, you can emboss it, and it looks fabulous. All right, so let me share a peek at the 3 cards that we're going to be making today, and then we'll jump right in and get started. Oh, I'm going to need this, and I'm going to need the dies. Let's keep those over here. Okay, so these are the 3 cards that we're going to be making. So this one here, we're going to create our own pattern paper using the stamps. This one here, we're going to use a technique using our Stampin' Write markers. And then this one here, I'm going to show you how to use that one die that's in this die set. All right. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start with this one here. Pull out the pieces that I need. All right. Okay, so I've got 2 pieces of white here. I'm going to take the smaller of the 2 pieces. Now in tomorrow's blog post, I will have all of the measurements and photos of the projects. And once that post goes live, I will link to it in the description here so that you can refer back to it. I'm not going to go through all the measurements and everything here. Okay, we are going to start by doing some ink blending, and I'm going to use 2 colors. I'm going to use Daffodil Delight and Calypso Coral. We're going to start with Daffodil Delight, and I'm just going to basically kind of add color wherever I feel like adding color. So when I use our blending brushes, I like to use a light hand and go in a circular motion and start by adding just a little bit of color, because I can always add more layers of color, whereas if you add it on too thick, it's a little bit harder to take away that color. And we'll add a little bit more. So I've got my glass mat underneath, so I can go off the edges and then just give it a quick wipe. I don't have to worry too much about getting ink on my work surface. Okay, we're going to start with that. I'm going to go ahead and add my coral, but I'll leave my yellow out in case I want to come back in with some yellow. So now the coral is a little bit darker, so I'm just going to tap off any excess so that I don't get any harsh marks just on my glass mat here. And then again, the very light hand, I'm going to come in a circular motion and add that coral. And you can go over some of your yellow as well so that it blends, the colors blend nicely together. And I'll ink it up again Rotate it around and we'll add some color over here. I love our blending brushes. Next to my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, these are probably my most used tool. I just love the look of blended ink and how you can use any color. You can add color to stamped images, die cut images, just solid cardstock like we're doing here. Okay, so that looks pretty good, but I'm going to come in with a bit more yellow and just kind of blend over that coral and make my yellow stand out just a little bit more. Okay, you know what? That's good. All right, I'm going to leave these inks out because we're going to do some stamping. So I've got the medium-sized butterfly. I'm going to start with my daffodil ink, and I'm just going to stamp. So again, I'm going off the edges onto my glass mat because it's just so easy to just wipe off the ink afterwards. Okay, so we've got that. Then I'm going to put that in my coral and we'll ink it up with coral. And so where I've ink blended the coral, I'm going to add in some coral butterflies. Let's do this guy. All right, like that. And then we're going to come in with the little speckle, the little dots, and we're going to add some yellow dots. And I'm not going to bother doing them in the two colors. I'm going to do them just in the one all over. So at this point, you can go back and add some more color if you want it to be a little bit darker after you've done the stamping. You can definitely do that. And I think I am going to make the coral just a little bit darker. So I'm going to bring in, yeah, this is coral. And I'm just going to make this just a little darker. With stamps and ink, it's so great that you can create this kind of a thing with any color. Whereas pattern paper, you're kind of limited to the colors that it comes in, right? So it's nice to be able to create your own pattern paper. Okay, so now before we go any further, we're going to give this a wipe, get rid of all of that ink so we don't get it on the rest of our project. And we're going to take a 2-inch circle punch. You can use a circle punch, you can use any shape punch. Just like when you're creating, if you're recreating this card, you don't have to use butterflies. You can use flowers, you can use really anything. So I'm punching it out kind of in the lower right corner like that. And then we're going to distress around the edges. So I'm going to grab my paper snips. If you've got our old distressing tool, you could use that. But I love to do this. I love the look of the distressing. It just adds a little bit of texture to your projects. So we're going to go around the edges. All right. If you guys are watching, I'd love to hear where you're watching from. It's always nice to hear where everybody is from. My kids are funny. They every once in a while they'll go onto my videos and have a look at the comments. Mom, you had somebody watching from like France or, someplace like that. They think it's pretty cool. All right. So now I've got a piece of daffodil cardstock. One of the great things about Stampin' Up! Is that everything matches. That really drew me in when I became a demonstrator years and years ago. I remember spending so much time in the scrapbook store trying to find the right color of blue or the right color of green to match the pattern paper that I wanted to use. And yeah, with Stampin' Up, there's no guessing. All right, now I'm going to use a piece of coral cardstock. And we're going to attach this to our coral cardstock. And I'm just using multi-purpose glue that I've put into this fine tip glue bottle that I picked up on Amazon. All right, and then I had a scrap of white. Here we go. Scrap of white. I'm going to use the happy birthday greeting from the Beautiful Butterfly stamp set. Oh, we've got another Albertan watching here. Welcome. Yes, this is an old idea. It's always nice to revisit old technique ideas or old ideas, things that we haven't done for years, because it almost feels like they're new again, right? Okay, so we've got our happy birthday. North Carolina, Oregon. Thank you for joining me this morning. All right, and you know what? We're going to trim this so it's a little bit thinner. So I'll just bring back my paper trimmer. And I've got my window open today. It's a beautiful day here where I am. It's supposed to be 2 degrees, which above zero in January in Alberta, well, at least in kind of central northern Alberta, is kind of unheard of. So it's beautiful. It's nice to have the windows open. Okay, so I'm just angle cutting these, and then I'm going to bring this back, and I'm going to kind of curl this so that it's like a wave. And then I'm going to use a combination of dimensionals. I'll put one in the raised part, and then a little bit of multi-purpose glue here and here. And we're going to pop this on here like this so that it's got a bit of movement. So it's waved. It almost looks like a wave, like that. And then what I've done in advance is I've taken 2 of the dies. So I took one of these butterflies. These 2 butterflies are exactly the same. So are these 2 bodies. So I cut one of the butterflies from some coral cardstock and one of the bodies from some black cardstock. And I'm just going to curl the wings up a little bit using my bone folder. And then we're going to pop this on here like that. And then we'll add the body. Does anybody have any fun plans for this weekend? We have Sunday dinner with our kids and their significant others. And this weekend we decided we're going to go bowling. So we haven't done that in years, so that'll be fun. All right, and then I've got a white baker's twine bow. For those of you who follow me often, you know that I have a hard time not including baker's twine or linen thread or some sort of fiber on my projects. So I had to include some white baker's twine on here. And then we'll just trim the ends. Oh, let's trim the end here. Put that back on. All right. And then we're going to put this on the inside. Actually, before we do that, let's stamp a couple butterflies on the inside. Actually, let's do, I think my coral ink needs to be refilled here. It's a little light. All right, and then we're going to take some daffodil. I'm just going to grab my stamp cleaner because we're going from dark to a lighter color. Going from daffodil to coral isn't really an issue, but going the other way, you want to make sure your stamp is clean. And then we'll do one here. So kind of stamping up the side just to add a little bit of interest on the inside of our card. And then we'll give this a wipe. Okay, and then we can add that to the inside. And I'll show you what I did to the inside of this one in a moment here. Okay, so we're going to pop that in the center here, and then our card is ready to go. So there's the card that we just made, and then this one is the same, except on the inside, I have the same thing that I did here. So what I did was this piece was a little bit bigger, so I did the technique on the whole piece, and then I trimmed it down to the size that I wanted, and this was the leftover piece, so I just added that on the inside. All right. I am in Sherwood Park, so just outside of Edmonton. All right, so there is card number 1. Oh, and I did take a piece of the DSP, so one of the coral patterns, and I added that to the envelope flap to have the envelope match. All right, so there is card number 1. Card number 2 we're going to work on is this one here. So this uses this fun die. So this fun die. So it looks a little weird, but it's meant to look like that so that you can get a fun card, like shaped card flap or card front. And I really like the way it looks on a note card and envelope. So this is a little bit smaller than our traditional size card. So these ones are folded are 5.5 by 8.5. This one is, well, this just gives me an idea that you could attach this to the front of like a quarter sheet. That would look really nice. I have another idea now. So this size is 3.5 by 5, so a little bit smaller. You can buy note cards and envelopes they're in our annual catalog, or you can find them online. They come in a package of 20. You get the folded card, so you get 20 envelopes and 20 card bases. They come cut and scored, so it's a huge time saver. When I have to mass produce cards, I often turn towards note cards and envelopes just because they are so quick and easy to use. It saves you it saves you 2 steps, having to cut down your card bases and having to score. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our die cutting machine. So let me grab mine. And I suggest having some washi tape handy or Post-it notes so that you can hold this in place. All right, and what you're going to do is you can see on here that where this line is, this is where it's going to cut. And then there's a little, the line continues on, but it's not going to cut, but it's showing you where those lines are. That's where you want to line up your score line. So you do want to score your card. So I am just, and it shows you on this side too. Let me show you a little bit closer. Hopefully you guys can see this. So you can see that there's a line there. So when you flip it over, so the cut side is down, it's really hard to see, isn't it? But you can see that there's a line. That's where that line is on the back. That's where you want to line up your score line. Okay, so I'm going to grab some washi tape. I grab 2 pieces so I can put a little bit on both sides. And then I'm going to line up that score line with the score line on my note card. And then I'm going to center it. So I want to make sure it's centered on both sides. And it looks like it's going to go off of let me pull this out a little bit. It looks like it's going to go off of the card base, but it actually won't. Okay, that looks like it's lined up. Let's put a little bit of adhesive here and here. And then we'll put this top plate on. So your cutting sandwich is still the same as it normally would be for a normal die. And I'm just going to go over it until it snaps, and then I'll go back. Then we'll move this out of the way. And put these back. Okay, and then I'm going to carefully peel this off so that it doesn't tear. Okay. All right. So now this is what it looks like. I'm going to take my snips and I'm just going to snip from the edge up to this point. So we want to snip these off. And then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to get rid of some of this dust. And I'm going to fold. And look at that. It's as easy as that. I love this. Look how pretty it is. So pretty. Okay, so now let's step it up a notch and we're going to pull in some patterned paper. So I've got a piece of the coral patterned paper and I'm going to cut it down. Let me check my measurements here to 3 1/4. So I'm going to cut 3 1/4 first and then rotate it and cut it to 4 3/4. Okay, this I can save for a different project. This I can use for my envelope flap. So then this piece is going to go across the center here, or in the center, so that we've got a nice white border. So we'll do that first. Oh, which side do we want to use? We'll use the lighter side, because if we're going to write on it, we want it to be a little bit lighter. This is going to go in the center here, like that. So then that gives us a bit of contrast. So it's already looking pretty. Now I'm going to open it up and we're going to do some stamping. So I'm going to bring back my coral ink. And in the stamp set, where is the stamp set? Here it is. There are these two things here. They're pretty much the same. I think they're just reversed. I just use the same one for all of the stamping. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to stamp it here. And then here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So you can switch it up and use it. Actually, I'm going to do this one first. You can switch it up and use the two different stamps, but I find that it really doesn't make that much of a difference. All right. Okay, so we've got that done, and I think we're done with our coral ink. Now I'm going to bring back some daffodil, and we're going to do some ink blending around the edges. And I am going to use a scrap piece of paper, just so that I don't get ink on the back side of my card. Okay, so we'll add some yellow, and we're going to go around the edges. So, and I only want to do the wings. I don't want to add color to the body. And then we'll do this side. All right. Okay, now look at that. Isn't that pretty? Okay, we're done with yellow. Now we're going to bring back our happy birthday greeting. And, okay, it doesn't look like I have a strip. Oh, let's give this a wipe. Just need to grab a scrap of white so that I can stamp my greeting. And we'll trim it so it's a little bit narrower. So I'm going to trim it so it's about, I don't know, maybe 3/8 of an inch. You can also stamp it and then trim it. I'll stamp it with Memento ink. All right. Okay, and then to step this up a little bit, like this looks good just like that, but I wanted to step it up just a little bit. So what I did was I took my dies, so this particular die here, this detailed butterfly, and I cut that and one of the large bodies, I cut them from some black cardstock. And we're going to use our bone folder and just gently curl it up because we want it to look like our butterfly is coming off of the page. And before we stick this on, we're going to add the body. So I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive. Actually, let's add the adhesive to this. And then we'll pop this on here like that. I love this butterfly in black, so pretty. And then we'll flip it over, add some adhesive just to the body. And then we're going to pop this on here. Like that. All right. And then a great product that actually coordinates really well with this suite is I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's the 3-color twine. It's from the annual catalog. You get Balmy Blue, Flirty Flamingo, and Lemon Lolly twine. So 3 colors of twine in the package. And there's no Flirty Flamingo in this paper pack, but Flirty Flamingo, this twine looks really like it looks almost like coral on here. And there's no Lemon Lolly, but the yellow brings out the daffodil. So this is a great, if you've got it already in your collection and you purchase this DSP, then just know that it's a great, they work really, really well together. Okay, so we've got a little bit of Flirty Flamingo twine here. I'm going to put a little dot of multi-purpose glue right in the center. And let's make our loops just a little bit bigger. We'll put that on there. And then our greeting, we're just going to angle cut the ends. And we'll add some dimensionals to the back of this. And I'm going to keep in mind that the middle will be where the knot sits from our bow. So I'm just going to add one to either side, or one to each side. And then we'll put this across like that. And we've got a beautiful birthday card. So you can write your message on the inside. And then this we can use on our envelope flap. So I'm just going to add some adhesive. So just a reminder that this is a note card size. So it is a little bit smaller. And note card size can be mailed, at least here in Canada, you can mail it. It's no extra postage. They can be popped in the mail just with regular postage. And then I'll just cut around this. There we go. And now we've got a matching envelope. So that is card number 2. I'll set this aside. That can be used for a different project. I love this one. So pretty. You could do that in all the colors of the DSP. The fresh freesia, balmy blue. You could do it in berry burst. So fun. All right, set that aside. Okay, and now we've got a little bit of a technique card that we're going to do. So this is the card here. And we're going to start with this. So this is a layer. I think it's 3 3/4 by 5, but again, you'll be able to find all the measurements in the linked blog post, which will go live tomorrow. So I'll add that to the description once it goes live. I used thick white cardstock for this, for the card base, but also for this layer, just because we're going to add some moisture to this. So, and the thick white cardstock kind of holds up a little bit better. And we're going to use our block to create this background. So we're going to start with one color. I'm going to set that aside so I don't get it all inked up. We are going to start with a marker, Stampin' Right marker in Daffodil Delight, and I'm just going to color right on here. You can use this with your ink pads as well. You can just smush it in your ink pad. It works out so that it's a little bit darker or a little bit more bold when you use your ink pads. I'm going to mist it with Stampin' Spritzer, which just has tap water in it. And then I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to stamp it down. I probably should have started with the middle color, but we will wing it here. And I'm just going to place it on my cardstock and just hold it there for a couple seconds. And then lift it up and you've got this beautiful background. Now we'll just give this a wipe with some paper towel. We'll give this a wipe. And then we're going to move on to our next color, which is Calypso Coral. So these are our Stampin' Right markers. They're a water-based marker. You don't want to do this with alcohol markers because they dry too quickly. And there are 2 tips to these markers. So there's a brush tip, and then there is, actually this is probably an older one. The tips don't look like that anymore. Let me see if this one has the right tip. Yeah, so they've got more of a felt tip now. And we've got a fabulous deal right now. If you purchase the starter kit, which is $135, you can choose one of 2 options. And one of them includes two sets of 10 Stampin' Right markers plus an exclusive stamp set for no additional cost. So it's $135. You get to choose $165 worth of product plus the 2 sets of markers and the exclusive stamp set. And you only pay $135, no shipping and no tax. That's here in Canada. So it is a fabulous deal. Your starter kit can be made up of anything that can be purchased. So it can be made up of last chance items. It can be made up of products from the scrapbooking brochure. Okay, see how this is pooling here? I'm just going to take my paper towel and just kind of soak that up a little bit. It can be made from the new mini catalog products, online exclusives. It can be made up of anything that can be purchased. Okay, so it is a fabulous deal. If you live in Canada, I would love to have you come join my team. And if you have any questions about purchasing the starter kit and any of the obligations, which there really are no obligations whatsoever, you can do with it what you'd like, then just reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Okay, so now we're using Berry Burst. So you do want to mist this so that you can see that the ink starts to pool, so that you get a nice kind of watercolory type look. And then we're going to stamp this right down here and then carefully lift it up. And again, I'll kind of soak up some of this excess. That'll just speed up the drying time. And then we can wipe this off and wipe this up. Okay, and then we're going to set that aside. We're still going to do something else to this, but we want to make sure that it's dry before we move on to the next step. So we've got some other things that we can do while we're waiting. But isn't that pretty? It makes such a great background. Okay, let's set that aside. And then I'm going to bring in a strip of white, and we're going to do some stamping on here. So I'm going to use the same colors. So let's give this a clean. I can't remember what color we used it in last. Okay, let's move it this way. And we're going to stamp it in daffodil first, and then we're going to color it in just using our blending brushes. So like I said, our blending brushes are good for so many different things. If you are not a fan of coloring, this is one quick and easy way that you can add some color to your images. All right, so now we've got some color to that. Then I'm going to move on to coral. I'm going to do the same thing. Yeah, my coral definitely needs to be re-inked. Okay, and then we're going to move on to our last color, which is Berry Burst. And I need to grab my Berry Burst blending brush. Okay, I'm just going to tap off. And we'll add a little bit of color to this. All right, I'll just wipe this up. Okay. Trying to put this on the stand so it doesn't get on any of my papers here. All right. Now we're going to die cut these. So we're going to pull out the coordinating die, which is this die here, and we're going to die cut them. But I've already got those die cut. So that's what they look like after you've die cut them. So you don't have the white edge, you've got color around the edges. But I also cut an extra butterfly from coral. So one of these butterflies I cut from coral, and then one of the small bodies from black. All right. Okay. So now this should be dry. Not quite. I'm going to bring in my heat tool and just give it a quick zap so that it's fully dry, because we want to stamp over top of this and I don't want the ink to bleed. All right. Actually, we'll just give it another minute. The other thing I'm going to do is distress around the edges, so I could do that while we're just giving that another minute to dry. Okay. And then what I wanted to do, I wanted to add a little bit more to the background. So I decided to do some stamping. I chose to stamp the word hello, and we're going to do it in each of the colors. So I'm going to start with yellow, and I'm just going to stamp. Let's make sure this is straight. Stamp it there, here, and then I want to stamp it again, except I want it to be half yellow and half coral. So I'm going to ink it with yellow, and then I'm going to take my Stampin' Write marker and just go over with the coral, and then I'm going to stamp kind of where it overlaps, like that. And then I need some coral. Oh, we don't want to do that. Let's put this one away. So now I'm going to stamp a couple solid coral ones. And then do the same thing with the Berry Burst. So where it separates, I'm going to ink it all up with coral, and then ink the bottom half of the word hello with Berry Burst. Now you can do this with ink pads as well. You can ink the whole thing up with coral and then just ink half of it with the Berry Burst. Oh, no, we want berry burst. We don't want coral. All right. And now we've got this fun background that we can add to our card front, which is a piece of thick white cardstock. And because this has, like, we added some moisture to it, it doesn't sit super flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add adhesive all the way around the edges. When you're using multi-purpose glue, you usually don't need to add a ton of glue because it is a very, very good glue and it will hold your projects together nicely. But because this has a little bit of, you know, added wrinkles to the cardstock, I guess you could say, I wanted to add a little bit more adhesive to that. Isn't that pretty? So pretty. Okay, now we're going to bring in our butterflies and we're going to take the butterflies and curl the wings up so that it looks like our butterflies are flying off of the paper. We're going to do that for our stamped butterflies as well as our die cut butterfly. And we'll add our yellow one. Again, just adding adhesive just the center. We're going to add our yellow one to the yellow and our berry burst to the berry burst block. And then before we add our coral, I've got a baker's twine bow here. Just going to make the loops just a little bit bigger. So this is just some white twine. Add a little dot of glue in there and put this at an angle. And then we're going to use some dimensionals, which are here somewhere. Oh, here they are. I'm going to put a dimensional on either side of this knot, or the center of my bow. And then position this on here. And it looks really good. You could leave it just like that. But I wanted to add a little bit more color. So I'm going to add a solid piece of cardstock in the center of this center butterfly. And then the black body. And then it's going to make that center butterfly just really pop. And there we go. There is our card done. Oh, nope, not quite done. We're going to take some of these itty bitty bouquet mix. And this is such a great mix. There's lots of different colors in here, but they're not all, some of them are sequins with a hole in them and a little bit of detail around the edges. And some of them are just tiny hexagon pieces, but there's some half back pearls in here as well. So I'm going to grab my take your pick tool because I want to pick out the pearls. So the gummy end just makes it really easy to kind of pick out the pieces that you want. So I'm just going to take these and position them on here. And we want a bigger one. There's two different sizes in the half back pearls. I'll add two more. So a big one there, and then I want another small one. Oh. And there we go. Now our card is done. Isn't it pretty? And it's so fun to play with different techniques. It really gives it kind of like an artsy kind of look to it because you've got the rough edges from the water, the spritzed blocks, and then the multicolored stamping. So fun. And then distressed around the edges. There are even a few little splatters here from when I spritzed the block. So it all adds to the kind of artistic look to this card. So let me pull in, I don't think I did anything. I did not do anything on the inside, but you could easily stamp some butterflies on the inside of this one. All right, so there is card number 3. Here's card number 2. And then card number 1. And there we go. We've got 3 beautiful card ideas using the beautiful butterflies bundle from the January to April mini catalog. And if you love these cards, make sure that you check out the beautiful butterflies class, card class that I have going on right now. There is a link to it in the description where Laura and I will share 6 additional butterfly card ideas using this beautiful bundle. All right, so thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and have a fabulous weekend. Take care.